Ho, ho, ho! Merry Christmas! Happy Hanukkah! Festive Kwanzaa! Wonderful winter solstice! Ramadan? Let's have some fun!
Ooh. Ba-da-ba-ba, ba-da-ba-ba. All right. Promoter 101.
12 Nights of Christmas.
Promoter 101. 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 Promoter 101.
Adam Kornfeld. I'm at Artist Group International, AGI in New York, and I'm on Promoter 101.
Ho, ho, ho! Happy holidays to all the good music industry boys and girls. I've made my list and checked it twice, and it's true. Steiny and Luke have returned for a very special, one-night-only reunion pop-up show spectacular. Ho, 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 ho. Time to find out who's naughty or nice. But let's be real, we already know. Naughty. Both of them, unequivocally. But that's why we love them. It's the Promoter 101 Holiday Pop-Up Extravaganza. Ho, 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 ho.
All right. Enough teasing already. Promoter 101 is back for one very special holiday show. I'm Dan Steinberg, and joined as always, my partner in crime, the W, Lou Pierce.
Hey, happy holidays to all of our friends and listeners. We have missed you all throughout 2023, but we are excited to be back, chasing down some great stories, some great interviews, a lot ahead of us. We have a special holiday gift for you this season. Joining us later today in the podcast, the one and only Louie Messina is here for our feature interview. Louie's the founder of Messina Touring Group, and he sat down with Steiny at last week's Aspen Live conference. And let's just say they set the bar pretty high for all conference keynotes with this one. I was there. They covered everything from Ed Sheeran to the Lumineers, and of course, the record-breaking Taylor Swift Eras Tour. I don't want to give it all away, but Louie really did bring his A game for this one. Stay tuned for the rest of the interview in this podcast.
Also, a war story from Entourage Talent's president, Wayne Forte, talking about breaking new territories with David Bowie back in the day.
Plus, we've got our good friend Psyko Steve presents Steve Chilton. He's the owner of the Rebel Lounge. He's going to join us to talk about the pitfalls of festival promoting, right as all these festivals are announcing, Dan.
They all make it look so easy. Charlie Walker, C3, Golden Voice, Paul Tillett. They do these massive big festivals, and it looks so easy. But, it don't come easy.
The Promoter 101 Holiday Special starts right now.
Jim Glancy Barry presents on Promoter 101.
There are over 225 past episodes of the Promoter 101 podcast available for your education and enjoyment anytime you want at promoter101.com.
And feel free to hit us up with your questions and ideas at steiny@promoter101.net.
And of course, you can join us in the conversation. Join us online. This show on Twitter, or X now, is at Promoter101. I'm at W. Luke Pierce. Dan is at The Jew. Over on Instagram, the show is at Steiny Promoter 101. Dan is at Dan Presents, and I'm at W. Luke Pierce.
Hey, this is Matt Berenger from the Pabst Theater Group here on Promoter 101.
News of the week.
Normally we do news of the week, but now that it's the year of wrap-up, it seemed like it was a good moment to just take a look back at the year that was 2023. Luke, can you take us through it?
Absolutely, Dan. 2023 was a year of a lot of stories in the music business. And I had a pretty hard time kind of distilling this down, but I kind of came to a top 5 that I think are interesting to talk about here, that headlines that, love them or hate them, dominated the music business in 2023. So let's give it a run. What do you say, Dan?
I'm always a fan of top 7 lists, but sure, let's go with the top 5.
All right, we'll do 5, and then we'll come back to some honorable mentions that you think I might have missed here, all right? We'll start backwards. We'll start at number 5, and we'll count upwards.
Fair enough.
2023, 5th biggest story of the year, I think, is The Sphere. It's the smiley face. You had Darren Aronofsky, U2. If you were around in the world, you literally could not miss the opening of this venue. If you weren't even close to the music business, you knew what the Sphere was. The 18,000 cap venue built by Jim Dolan in Madison Square Garden in Las Vegas captured the attention of the entire world with its flashy and groundbreaking design. This building got started in 2019 and, of course, like everything else, was delayed a couple of years during COVID. It was originally projected at $1 billion in cost, but it spiraled all the way to $2.1 billion in final cost to open. September 2023, the world went nuts when it saw the effects on display as U2 opened the venue with a 40-show residency called U2 UV Achtung Baby Live. That residency has already grossed more than $110 million in ticket sales, and MSG said that residency model of 5 to 6 sit-downs per year is in the mix. UFC and the NFL Draft are already slated for 2024. Dan, I know you're headed there this weekend to catch one of the final wrapping shows of U2. U2 is a great one. I'm sure you're excited to see that, but do you have any other all-time bands that you'd like to be seen in some of these residencies coming up at the Sphere?
Well, Phish has already announced they're doing 4, which I think is a cool thing. And obviously Phish is going to be Phish. It's not going to be a set played the same way every night because that's just not what Phish does. But it'll be cool to see what they do with the graphics. I mean, you see a screen that big and you just think, dude, I want to play Madden on that. I'm looking forward to seeing the effects of U2 and what they've done. They're a groundbreaking brand. They take risks and they are really doing well with this. And there's really not a rock that you can crawl under that you haven't been able to see an image somewhere of the cool graphics that the Sphere is doing. It really is a game changer.
I can't wait to see some photos from the show. I'd love to see a band like Tool step into that. I think some of the visuals and graphics for a band like that would absolutely be nuts, but it's going to be tough, I think. I heard some enormous sums in pre-production just to open that venue. I mean, when you consider all the lighting and graphic design that has to go into creating spatial audio, 4D effects, all those things, you could probably count on 2 hands the number of artists in the world that could, 1, front those costs, and 2, kind of sell out as many tickets as required to make a deal work at the Sphere. But no doubt, venues like this and the one they attempted to build in London are certainly going to change the game for next level experiences inside venues. And I'm excited to see more of it.
I think there's plenty of bands. There's Metallica, there's Beyonce. You've got that list that just goes on for days. Pink, that can sell the tickets, right? There's plenty of Stadium Acts. Roger Waters could do it, right? The Stones could do it. Clearly, Taylor could do it if she wanted to. There's a lot of bands that can sell that many tickets in Vegas, and I think you're about to see just how many. Not to mention the classic rock bands like Eagles, Fleetwood Mac, any configuration of the Grateful Dead, right? It's like, we're going to see more of this. There's going to be a big list of bands that are going to take on this challenge.
Well, excited to see this all unfolds in 2024. Number 4 in the list of stories here. Hate it or love it, Jason Aldean. Jason Aldean was a huge story this year. His very controversial song and video, Try That in a Small Town, made headlines in almost every way this year. There was widespread controversy. It was shot in front of a courthouse in nearby Columbia, Tennessee, where Jason and his wife Brittany reside. And that same courthouse was the site of a 1927 lynching of a man named Henry Choate. Aldean got accused that his song and his videos were giant dog whistles, coded endorsements of racism and lynching. CMT took the video down after 4 days. Lawmakers called Aldean racist. Vivek Ramaswamy and Nikki Haley began playing it at rallies. But the week after that video release, the song shot up to number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100. That's Aldean's first appearance at the top of that chart. And it's also worth noting, on that same week where he appeared at number 1, that Morgan Wallen and Luke Combs were in some order of 2 and 3 on that chart, which is the first time in history that country dominated the Billboard Hot 100 in that way. It was the biggest digital sales week for a country song in over 10 years. And according to his agent, Jason's never sold as many tickets. Crowds are huge. It's no surprise that something like this and the kind of controversy that comes with it draws headlines, draws sales, draws success. To whatever people say about the song, it proved a lot of people wrong in the fact that one part of the country, people with one type of ideology flocked to this. And that song, funny enough, was only bumped off the charts by our next story of the year, which is number 3, Oliver Anthony. Same thing. Love it or hate it, Oliver Anthony seemed to take the music business by storm this fall as his song Richmond, North of Richmond reached number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100. It made him the first artist to appear atop that chart without any prior charting history of any form. His video was released in August, and it went viral as people like Joe Rogan, conservative commentators like Matt Walsh, and artists like John Rich helped launch this song through platforms like Truth Social. I don't really have much commentary on Oliver Anthony's success. He certainly has bucked the music business in a big way. He turned down record-setting numbers for recording contracts rumored to be up in the $8 to $10 million range. He's, for the most part, rebuffed the conventional music business, despite signing with UTA, but he seems to be heading independently without any radio play and still kind of making waves out there. He, of course, had some stumbles. He announced a show in Knoxville, Tennessee, and had to promptly pull it down after not looking over the deal and accusing the promoter in the market, who overpaid him a lot of money, of charging fans too much. So the inexperience is showing there a little bit, but no doubt themes around Oliver Anthony, themes around Jason Aldean, better or worse, have really dominated some of the stories and headlines of this year. So Dan, I mean, I hate to dance around it, but like this sort of conservative leaning environment where we have artists like Oliver Anthony, like Jason Aldean appearing atop the charts, speaking to really like one half the country, maybe less than half the country here in terms of this, with enormous successes, has to say something to what we're doing with our marketing music and who we're marketing to and how we are using themes of division and racism and controversy to create success in the music business. And I think it's something we're all going to have to reckon with at some day. But no doubt, for the meantime, huge successes out of both of these artists in 2023.
Well, one thing's for sure. You can't cancel an artist when their fan base isn't willing to walk away from them.
Well said. Number 2, AI. I feel like I might have copped out with this answer, but I'll tell you what, because I don't think AI really has made it into live music business as much as I necessarily experienced it everywhere else in management, from recorded music to marketing. But AI seemed to be a topic of conversation everywhere in 2023. ChatGPT, OpenAI, everything and everywhere had an AI label to it this year. And it's both excited people and it's frightened people in 2023. Creators are outraged at the chances that their voices and their work might be used and exploited without their permission. Labels, of course, are trying to cash in. YouTube and Lear Cohen have been talking about it to anyone that'll listen. As a parent company, Alphabet/Google is trying to dominate the AI space. YouTube launched a bunch of new AI-powered tools for creators and hoped to launch a tool that would let creators use the voice of major musicians to create their own content. Of course, none of the major labels have signed on to this out of this podcast airing. I say this, AI is for sure here to stay. Its effect, who knows, but it's definitely something to pay attention to throughout 2023 as we progress into 2024.
You can't forget that half of entertainment, particularly Hollywood, closed down because of the strikes that were completely focused on AI issues. Both the Writers and the Actors Guild taking half the year off this year, longest strikes we've seen for a long time. So AI is definitely going to have a voice in the conversation moving forward for sure.
No doubt. Of course, Dan, the obvious number 1 in 2023, something we're going to get into later on in this podcast, Taylor Swift. She's Time Magazine's Person of the Year. She's, of course, a huge subject in the Louie interview that's coming later in this podcast. She even helped make Travis Kelce famous, Dan. What more to say? She dominated headlines, every aspect of them in 2023, showing up at NFL games, giant bonuses paid to her crew, her bus drivers, everybody else on stage, causing one of the craziest stories in ticketing in 2023, hiding in a mobile broom closet each night to get on stage, you name it. Every moment, everything that she touched became a headline this year. And of course, rightfully so. Her Eras Tour broke all the records, 151 shows, 5 continents, sold out multiple stadiums across each market. And the biggest headline, of course, highest grossing tour of all time, first tour to pass $1 billion in ticket sales. What Taylor can't do? I don't know. Taylor wins. She always fucking wins, Dan.
To say that she made Travis Kelce famous is an overstatement because he certainly was famous. He already won a Super Bowl. Clearly, he raised his level of fame, but he was already famous. There's no question.
I put that in there mostly to trigger people about that because I think most people would feel that Travis Kelce was already famous. I did love the meme going around, everything on TikTok where the girlfriend would say to the boyfriend, Taylor really made Travis Kelce famous. And seeing all the reactions of those videos really gave me a chuckle for a couple good weeks there. So sure, we'll see her at more Chiefs games as the season progresses here. And I even saw something where Taylor attending games actually improves Travis Kelce's performance. So I'm sure we'll see more of her as the season progresses on through the rest of the year. Happy 2023, Dan.
Fergie, tour design. I'm on Promoter 101.
Next up, we've got a war story from Entourage Talent Associates President Wayne Forte.
One of our favorite all-time guests, friend of the podcast. You have the best stories. Can we get one more war story out of you?
Sure. I can give you a war story. Back in the day, when I was doing the David Bowie World Tour, Serious Moonlight. So that was my first world tour as a co-producer of the tour. 83, I think. I'm just off the top of my head. We had a world tour, Europe, Australia, New Zealand, North America, and then we ended in Japan. Or we thought we were ending in Japan. And when we get to Japan, David decides that he wants to do Southeast Asia. Probably with maybe 6 weeks, 8 tops notice. Because we were going from Japan to Australia, to the Australia-New Zealand leg. Actually, that was going to be the end. So this was the penultimate end, or whatever you call it. And then we were going to go down, do Australia, New Zealand. And he decided that he wanted to do Southeast Asia, because back in those days, big artists didn't really go there. They didn't go, through, maybe Hong Kong they did, but they didn't really go to Singapore and Thailand and, Malaysia and places like that. So we had this huddle, and it was, we have this huge production we're on the road with, right? It's a world tour. I mean, we had, multiple stages and all this stuff, big band. And it was like, well, we just can't really pull this off. And he says, I'll play 200 capacity clubs. I don't care. I just want to go to Southeast Asia. We'll play on local band equipment.
And the rest of the world, he's playing like stadiums, right?
Yeah, we did, arenas.
So this isn't an
arenas.
underplay. This is there are more people staffed on a stadium show than you can fit into these clubs.
Correct. This was one of those, I got to do this because nobody else does it kind of thing, right? And then it was like, okay, Wayne, sort this out. And I'm thinking, I'd never booked Southeast Asia. I mean, as I said, many acts hadn't gone there really. So I was like, okay. Let me see. So I start, calling people up and trying to get references. And so what I ended up doing was, we finished in Japan. It was about 3 days off before we actually started in Australia, I believe. 3, maybe 4, to get everything there, get everybody there, get all the equipment set up and everything. I think we were starting in Perth. And so with my tour partner that we were producing the tour with, I said, we had a huddle, and it was like, I said, how are we going to pull this off? I said, the only way we're going to do it is I'm going to have to go there. So I called, I started calling some people, and I thought, all right, I'm going to have to make a quick trip on the way to Australia. I'm just going to go to Southeast Asia, stop in, meet some people, look at venues, literally do, like a recce. Hong Kong, I think I stayed overnight. And then I did Singapore and Japan and Thailand, I think, back to back. And I stayed overnight, and then I flew to Perth. And so I contacted some people, and the guy in Singapore was a doctor who promoted the show. He was a fan. The guy in Thailand owned like massage parlors. There really were no venues there at the time that we could really play. I mean, there were some really funky clubs, but there was really no venues. And when I'm going, I'm thinking, oh, we can't do this. We can't play in these funky little places. So Hong Kong wasn't, bad, because they had, at Hong Kong Arena, they had a few venues.
It was established.
Yeah, because they had sports, and, it was kind of like Tokyo in a way. They had regular things going through. They had Asian acts coming through, Filipino acts, and Japanese acts, and whatever. There was a little bit of a circuit there. Singapore, similarly, that Chinese and whatever. But there was really no place, and nobody really was wanting to take a shot except for these people that I came up with out of the fucking blue. And so I go there and I look around. And so Hong Kong, we were okay. We had a venue. We played the Hong Kong Arena, which we sold out. Actually, we played 2 nights there. And then I went to Singapore and met with this guy. So so he was like, this is going to be the biggest thing that's ever happened. We got to do it outdoors in a stadium. And I'm thinking, we've never been here. I don't know if we can do this. He's like, no, we're going to get the stadium. So we ended up getting like the big soccer stadium. There was a whole issue getting it because there was a tournament coming in, like a world, not a World Cup, but like some kind of a big soccer tournament coming in the week after the date we were going to play. And then I fly to Thailand, and there's really nowhere to play there in Bangkok. So the guy's like, we're going to play at this, same thing. We're going to play outdoors at a stadium. And I'm thinking, okay, this is great, but how are we going to get all this gear here, right? How are we going to get all these like air freight, all this like equipment and staging and all this stuff here? So, and me with all these guys here, they all want to do it. So I said, okay, I'm going down to Australia. We'll sort it out, So I left, flew down we couldn't get into Malaysia. They wouldn't let us in with David Bowie in those days. So I couldn't do Malaysia. So I flew down to, Perth, and the tour started down there, and we had a meeting, and it's like, okay, met with the production guys. It was like, okay, what are we going to do? And I said, well, they're going to get a bunch of local gear and stuff, and they're going to set this up. And the production guys are like freaking out. I mean, you know what production guys are like today? Okay, imagine, Brian Spicer in Brian, we're playing in some stadium in Hong Kong,
On local gear.
Bangkok, and we have local gear, local sound and lights.
And
I have
third
no
world
idea what
production
it's going
gear.
to look like. I don't know if they have a stage, but that's what we're going to do.
Hoping for better than Radio Shack.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the bar.
Exactly. So we go through the tour, and they're like driving me crazy the entire time. It's like you're out of your mind. We can't do this. So, and we put tickets on sale, and we're doing this thing. And I'll jump ahead. So we did Australia. New Zealand was great. And then a bunch of the crew and people went home because we were doing stadiums and like tennis stadiums and things like that down there. So we sent a bunch of the people went home, and it was like the ragtag crew. The tour accountant at the time called it the Bungle in the Jungle tour. That was the nickname of the tour.
The Bungle
in the Jungle. So we go and we fly in, and the first date we do is in Thailand, I think. And we get in, we get off the plane, we get on a bus, and we're riding. Sent them all the riders and all the specs and all the the stage plots and all that stuff just to look at. And the guy from Thailand says, we're going to reproduce the exact stage that you use, the exact everything. And I'm thinking, oh my God, what are we going to come? So we're literally driving from it was the Army Stadium, I think is where we played. Okay. We're driving from the airport. I'm in the back with the production guy, the production manager. I'll never forget. And he's like, after this tour, I'm killing you. You're dead. And we're driving down, and we're passing the stadium, and they literally were building this miniature version of the huge production that we had on the road from the ground up. And they had like cut the aluminum tubes and whatever, and they were building it piece by piece. They'd been working on it for a week. So it wasn't like they ordered in scaffolding or anything. They were
fabricating
building a stage from scratch. And so that was Thailand. We played Thailand. It was a great crowd. The equipment was okay. And then the guys in Singapore really didn't have anything. And they said, we're going to bring everything in from, we made a deal with Thailand. We're bringing, the product, not the staging, but we're going to bring sound and whatever. So they brought, some of the sound gear in. But we get there and I see these boxes being, as we're driving, there's boxes stacked up, and I said to the production guy, oh, I think they have the sound. Look, they got the sound. There's like boxes packed, stacked on the stage and all that shit. So when we get to the hotel, he goes down to the production. He comes in later and he get to the stadium, comes in later to the hotel. He goes, you're a dead man. He goes, yeah, they have the boxes, but there's no speakers in them. They're just cabinets. He says the speakers are coming tomorrow. They're bringing them in from, I don't even remember where. We're bringing them in. So for the next 2 days, they have guys down there screwing speakers in the boxes and twisting the wires and like taping them up to create a PA system. and I have no idea where they got the lighting from. They basically like looked all around like, Asia, I don't know, sourced everything and brought it in. So a lot of that ended up going to Singapore. I got to Singapore, he's in the big stadium. And so they put all the, plywood down, they're putting the stage up, and the production guy comes to me at the hotel and he goes, we may be put in jail at the end of this show. If it rains, if we damage that field, we're screwed.
Because the sport is sacred.
It's sacred. And they're having this tournament. He says, isn't there any other way we can do this? I said, no, how else are we going to set the stage up? If we're playing to the seats and they're building it on the field. So they build the stage, they put everything together, make a very long story short, we play the show, pisses with rain for like 2 days before the show. The night before the show, we get in, I get to the hotel, and I'm in the room with my producing partner, who's also doing all the books and stuff. I get a call from the promoter. He's this doctor guy, right? He calls, he goes, okay, I have this dinner organized tonight, David's invited and blah, 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 and you're invited and whatever. And I said, oh, okay, great. Okay, we'll call him and let him know. So we call him up. David, this guy's throwing a dinner tonight. He'd like to have you over. I'm not going. And I'm like, but he's the guy promoting the show here. Like, no, I'm not going to go. Okay. So I call the doctor back. I'm like, he's not feeling very well. He's not going to be able to go. He's not going to show up. Oh, he has to show up. I have dignitaries, he had invited all these like politicians, all the people that approved the freaking, stadium. I don't know if you've been there before. I've been there too many times. But so this was one of those. And it was like, anyway, in the end, he didn't go. And the guy was like, he was livid. But, we ended up playing the show. The night of the show, after it's over, we get back to the production guy said to me, we better get out of here really quickly. He said, that field is absolutely trashed. He said we could get thrown in jail. We left town as soon as we could, obviously, the next day. We went out to the airport. We flew out. We were okay. I don't know whatever happened with the tournament. I'm assuming they postponed it because the field was literally trashed. It was terrible, right? So our last date was in Hong Kong. Or last 2 days were in Hong Kong, which went a lot smoother. It actually was almost like a normal tour in Hong Kong. The thing with the money, I mean, it was like, here's the cash, here's a bag, it's like, and I'm thinking, what am I going to do with this? There was no bank wires.
It's local currency, right?
No, it was US dollars. Thing is, they weren't even supposed to have it. Some of the people wired me in advance, or I guess there were bank transfers in those days. So they bank transferred it way in advance because you had to do it over time, right? You couldn't just say, oh yeah, I need $50,000 to pay the artist or whatever it was. And it wasn't a lot of money in those days. Well, today's world, it wasn't a lot of money. Back then it was big money. But again, it wasn't that big. Nobody really ever done it. So many parts of the story. Going through the airport on the way in, I almost got pulled. Like I actually did get pulled by and questioned, what am I doing here? We were at the hotel in Thailand. The government officials showed up. We were laying by the pool, actually. I'll never forget this. We were laying by the pool. It was the day before the show. And the guy from the hotel comes over and he goes, Mr. Forte, the guy from the government's here. He needs to talk to you. So I go over to talk to him. I go, yes. He goes, you're not paying any taxes. I said, we don't pay the taxes. The promoter has to pay the taxes. But you're making a lot of money. I said, no, we're not making that much money. He had some number. I can't remember what it was. I said, we're not making that much money. It has to be. It's David Bowie. I said, we're not. I promise you, we're not. Here's the contract. Look at it. Oh, I don't know. You have to stay here. I'm going to come back to talk to you. Anyway, it took us like a day and a half, 2 days to sort it out. But it was one of those things I'm thinking, am I going to jail here? Am I never going to get home? If I go to jail in Thailand, do I ever get out? It's that level. And, knock on wood, I've been lucky. I haven't been dragged off, but it happens.
Doing your job and everything that could go wrong that leads you into a foreign prison.
Yeah, and in a foreign country like that, like going to jail, you may never come out again, especially in those days. So, yeah.
Promoter 101 on top of Aspen Mountain with the legendary Wayne Forte. Thank you.
Man, Wayne always delivers. That guy has lived an amazing life.
That he has.
Hi, my name's Jay Williams from WME, and you're listening to Promoter 101.
This past week at Aspen Live, the keynote featured Louie Messina from the Messina Touring Group and our very own Dan Steinberg. The interview is nothing short of a masterclass on the live touring business. From Ozfest to George Strait to Taylor Swift, they cover it all. So without further ado, here's Dan's sit-down interview at the keynote at this year's Aspen Live 2023 conference with Messina Touring Group's Louie Messina.
Who is Louie Messina? Often referred to in the industry by those who love him, fucking Louie. A father, a husband, a stadium tour promoter who on a single night promoted 3 stadium shows in 3 different markets simultaneously this summer. Saturday, July 29th, Taylor Swift played San Francisco, Ed Sheeran played Chicago, and George Strait played Nashville. With over 5 decades in the game and one of the biggest personalities in our business, Aspen Live, it is my pleasure to welcome, so put your hands together for the founder of Messina Tour Group, the one and only Louie Messina.
Thank you. That was nice.
Let's just jump right into it. In your days at Pace, you guys developed the amphitheaters in an early day. It was one of the best shed systems. You guys really were early developers in that. When you took the shows outside, how did that help you guys branch out of Texas, and how did that change the business?
Well, as you know, all the amphitheaters that we built in Pace days is pretty much the core of Live Nation, the amphitheaters. And it changed the business dramatically because instead of just being a promoter, we became building managers. And as everybody knows, as a promoter, the margins are very thin. And Alan Becker, my best friend, my mentor, my partner, he just passed away last year. He was the one that just told me, your business sucks. We need to own the popcorn, the peanuts, and the parking. And so that's what we did. We started building amphitheaters one by one around the country. And I was promoting from Texas to East Coast, West Coast. So that's how it changed. I crossed the boundary
Definitely a game changer, especially at that point, the local promoters owned most of those markets. But once you guys put those sheds up, you were suddenly in their business, whether they wanted it or not.
Yeah, I know. I got a lot of threats.
How did you get into the George Strait business, and how did that relationship come together, as it seems to be the foundation for building your touring game?
The true story is Steve Moore. He's the one that told me about George Strait. And we started promoting at Pace when George was just out of the honky tonks, started promoting in 3,000 seat theaters. And then when we built the Nashville Amphitheater, Starwood, I sent Steve to become the general manager. And the person I put in charge of George, Irv Woolsey and Danny O'Brien, hated him. So I got fired. But I kept on seeing Irv every time I went to Nashville. And finally, I came up with an idea because the Alamo Dome was being open in San Antonio. I came up and I pitched them the idea of doing the George Strait Country Music Festival to open the Alamo Dome in San Antonio, his hometown. And so we did it. Huge success. George and I became personal friends. I saw a different side of him. I told Irv, I go, what can we do to make it special? I mean, so we can have some fun. Don't worry about it, Louie. He sits on the bus, goes on stage, goes back on the bus. I go, that's bullshit. He's a superstar. So anyway, we wound up having a party and staying there till like 6 o'clock in the morning. So I did it the second year, and I said, we should do this in other places. So the third year, I did it in Dallas and Glen Helen, the amphitheater out there, because we owned it, and it was 40,000 capacity. So then I presented him with an idea of touring it. So that's what we did. I think it was 1998 or 97 that I put together the George Strait Country Music Festival throughout the country. We did 18 shows. We had the first year was George, Tim McGraw, Dixie Chicks, Faith Hill, and everybody else. In the second year, it was Tim McGraw, Kenny Chesney. And so that's where I had all my relationships. And so then George, after we finished doing the stadium run, which lasted 4 years, he went into arenas, and then I was forced to do co-promote with Ben Farrell. And that lasted for about 2 years, and George just said, why is he here? And I said, that's a good question. So I wound up becoming George's exclusive promoter in around 2004, I believe. But I've been with him now 30 years.
So besides the markets that Pace had amphitheaters in, and Texas, where you guys were the big promoter, when you were going into these other markets doing stadium shows, were you co-promoting with the local big promoter, or were you doing those on your own when you were going to those markets?
We did it on our own. I don't like partners. I mean, no, in a lot of places when we had the amphitheaters, we would have some of the local promoters involved with this.
So when you went into Denver, you weren't partnering with Barry?
No, we didn't come into Denver. We went to Denver for Fiddler's Green just for a short period of time. We were in Phoenix that Barry, I think, was booking for a while. I'm not sure, but we took over Phoenix. And I had a deal where Danny was somewhat involved. Danny's Lisco, he's a friend of mine. So, he was involved with this. But other than that, I didn't see a need to co-promote.
So if you're putting up stadiums in 18 different markets, late 80s, early 90s, steel didn't roll the same way it does now. Building those stages was quite a different feat. That was building a building each one of those markets. That had to be quite a challenge to handle the production, handling marketing, and that was really a huge undertaking.
Yeah, the fact that we did a Saturday and Sunday show every week, it was difficult. We had multiple stages, but it was just like routing, but production wasn't like it is today.
Right, you weren't sharing steel with anybody else.
No, we weren't sharing steel, no. We were just basically bringing sound and lights, and I think we had double video, so I think we were just bringing sound, lights, and band gear. And I don't know how we ever did the Sunday shows because we got so drunk on the Saturday shows.
You've said before that you work for the artist doesn't work for you. That seems to be the cornerstone of your philosophy in building these relationships.
It's not my philosophy, it's my motto. It's that I work for the artist. I want to be an extension of their manager, their publicist, their record company, their agent, and I have to be a part of their world. We have to be on the same page. The first thing when I talk to an artist, I'm always saying, tell me what's inside your head. Don't make me guess what's inside your head. You already know what your dreams are. So I want you to share that with me because I just don't want to guess at it. I can outdream you if you can tell me what you're dreaming about. And so that's how we work, man. And we build personal relationships, and Like I said, I've been with George for right at 30 years. Chesney this summer, next summer will be 25 years. Taylor, 17 years. Ed Sheeran, 10 years. Eric Church, about 9 years, and so on and so forth, you know. It's because we realize it's the artist that people come to see, not the promoter, and it's establishing that relationship and establishing just friendship and trust with each other.
Well, part of that trust and transparency, right? Because you become partners with them where everything's going into the pot.
Yeah, that's exactly how it worked. If there, you know, Scott Swift said, I remember he told Ed Sheeran, he goes, Ed was opening for Taylor on the Red Tour. He told Ed, he goes, if there's $1 on the ground and Louie picks it up, you're going to get 90 cents of it.
It's high praise. Mm-hmm. Everything seems to be 6 degrees of George Strait. Can you talk about how George has led to your other artists that you've continued to be able to build?
It was kind of unique how it happened because I established a relationship with Tim and Kenny and Faith and the Chicks. And then when we sold to SFX and SFX sold to Clear Channel, I thought it was going to be a great thing, radio and live. Clear Channel, instead of coming in with an olive branch, they came in with a baseball bat and tried to just take over the business and just dictate the business. And I just realized this is not what I want to be. This is not who I am. I said, I've got to get out of here. I didn't like what was going on. I didn't like the philosophy of what was happening. People that I hired at Pace were executives at Clear Channel. They became devils, and I just left. And I thought I had a 1-year non-compete. They thought I had a 5-year non-compete. So we were ready to go to court, and so I came up with a proposal. I said, what if I call out 5 bands, country, because they weren't into country at the time. So I carved out George Strait, Tim McGraw, Faith Hill, Kenny Chesney, and the Dixie Chicks. Not so bad.
In hindsight, you did pretty well with that list.
I mean, Tim and Faith, I did my first year. This was the first Soda Soul. The Chicks exploded. Kenny was just starting out and then exploding. And George was George Strait. He's still exploding, you know. It wasn't so bad. So that's how the relationship started with all those bands. I had a previous relationship with them, and I took a little different mentality to Nashville. I kind of took a rock and roll mentality instead of the yippee-ki-yo mentality, where I brought rock and roll to country.
Well, country touring certainly has your marks all over it. Dixie Chicks, Faith Hill, Tim McGraw, Kenny Chesney, Old Dominion, Eric Church, Taylor Swift, Blake Shelton. The list's insane, but it's more than just country, and you've really branched out beyond that. What was giving you such that early day success in country music? Why was that seemingly so easy for you?
I don't know. I'm a badass motherfucker, I guess.
I mean, was it an open market for country touring at that point?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, country was, at the time, it was all in-house promoters. Reba had her in-house promoter. George had his in-house promoter, kind of with Ben. Alabama had their in-house promoter. It was so just flat, in my opinion. And, I mean, no one ever thought about putting George Strait in a stadium. And not only did we put in the stadium, we created this whole rock and roll festival outside. You know, we had multiple stages in the parking lot. We had food. We had merchandise out there. And we just pushed the envelope a lot. People start saying, you know, I want to do that. That's how it really started. I really feel like I thought of something and it worked. And basically, what I did with George Strait is the same thing I did with the Texas Jam in 1978. All-day festival. I had skateboarding. I had the Rock and Roll Supermarket, Rock and Roll Movie Theater. I took over the whole Cotton Bowl grounds. I turned all the games into, instead of giving out bears and stuff, we gave out musical things as prizes. And so that's how it started. And I just took that, like I said, took that mentality to Nashville.
So it's not just country, right? You've worked with Ozfest, Van Halen, Sammy Hagar, Shawn Mendes, the 1975, Ed Sheeran, the Lumineers, Vance Joy. You've really branched out in all directions.
Right.
All doors seem to be open to you.
Well, it's open, but it's interesting. Every band but the Lumineers was an opening act. I mean, Ed opened for Taylor, Vance Joy opened for Taylor, Shawn Mendes opened for Taylor, Kenny opened for George, Eric opened for Kenny, and Blake opened for George. And so that's it.
It's a nice farm system.
Well, I have a great team. Our approach to music, to concerts, I think is a little different. All I want the artists to do is worry about what they do on stage. I want to make sure that we're doing our job. and there's no surprises. People see how relaxed it is at my shows. And if they're building managers, they go, we love when MTG shows come in. It's just different because we don't want drama. What's the point? I mean, we're friends. I may chew somebody out, but after that, I'll go, come on, let's go hang out.
So you're working with some of these acts in the U.S. Now you've expanded, and some of them you're working with globally, right?
Taylor, I'm involved worldwide. And Sean, when he gets back to work, I'm involved with Sean worldwide.
What are some of the challenges that you face as a promoter that's used to promoting in the U.S. going global?
Well, I do have local partners, but the problem is you don't have the control. I don't have the control that I have in North America and US and Canada. So you really rely upon the local promoters. And I'm totally believing that all the promoters across the country are in collusion with each other because every building deal is the same. Everything's the same, and this is basically you hear, this is how we do it. And so I'm trying to bring a little Louieism over there by saying, no, this is not how we do it. It's starting to work. We're starting to see some things changing, especially when you have a hot hand like Taylor.
So the Messina Group is different than AEG and Live Nation, what you're saying. How else do you think that you're different from Live Nation and AEG?
Well, I'm partners with AEG, and they've been good partners with me, but I run strictly independent. I have nothing but respect for Live Nation, but the difference between me and Live Nation and AEG is that I don't buy my way into relationships. I just don't. I'm not in the rent-a-band business. I am in the career business. I never buy my way into an artist. Only want to work with artists that want to work with me. So they have to believe in what I do and believe in what they do. Not saying Live Nation doesn't do it, not saying AEG doesn't do it, but I think I do it better. I work for 12 artists. I don't have 1,000 artists. I know what's going on every day. And the way I work, every artist I have a dedicated team for that artist. So I don't need to know everything about everything. Because if Kenny Chesney wants to know something, he personally will call Kate McMahon or Ro McMahon or Clint Heim with Kenny. George Strait will call Bridget Bauer direct. Ed Sheeran will call Keena Cheatham direct. Taylor doesn't call Mike Dugan, but Robert Allen will call Mike Dugan direct. And that's how we operate. When I had the amphitheater, I used to call myself a turn-the-page promoter. Because people would call me, like, what's our ticket count? And there I was, flipping pages. I didn't even know what show they were talking about. I was trying to guess, okay, what city is that act playing? I had no idea because I had so many shows going on. A guy changed my whole way of life. Wayne Forte is an agent. I was head of the Promoters Association. We had the agents there. We were doing a Q&A with them. And somebody asked me a question. I referred to the acts as inventory. And Wayne Forte raised his hand. He goes, I'm sorry, Louie. Did you just call the acts inventory? I went, I sure did. That pressed the button for me. That brought me back to when I was a kid and saw Elvis. It brought back to why I got into the business, that the acts weren't inventory. They were artists. My mentality changed from that day on. I went back to where I started, and that's where I am today. I work for the artists. I'm all about the artists. I have to believe in the artists. I just don't do it because I'm going to make a buck off of them. I don't want to do it. I have to think that I'm going to be with them for the next 10 years, and they're going to be with me for the next 10 years or more.
So let's stay with the AEG Live Nation thing for a second. How are you able to maintain a working relationship with Live Nation while you're still partners with AEG?
I respect Michael. Michael respects me. They make money off me. I go to the amphitheaters and they make money. Kenny Chesney sold out the amphitheaters. Lumineers Base sold out all the amphitheaters this summer. And I don't try to cross the line, I'm in my own lane. And I think Michael respects that. We just have respect for each other. That's it. It's been a good working relationship since the beginning.
And the AEG guys don't give you any shit for when you take the show over to Live Nation?
Once again, I work for the artists. Let me just end it like that. I work for the artist. I'm going to play the right building. I mean, if AEG has a building in town and there's another building in town, if it's a jump ball, I'm always going to go to an AEG building. But if the other building is better than this building, I'm going to the other building. AEG is my 50% partner. The artists are my 90% partner. So that's how I look at it.
Math wins. All right, let's talk about your team because you get a lot of the credit and your name's on the door. But if you've got 12 acts you work with, You got a lot of people helping you, and you said you have a team for each of them. How does that team keep 12 shows on the road? How have you built that out? And what's the future of your business beyond you retiring? Will there be a Messina group?
Of course they will, because I got a lot of Messinas working with me. But I have a lot of superstars on my team. You know, when I take a meeting with an artist, I'm having my staff with me, not my whole staff, but I'm thinking like, what's the right fit for this artist? I've always given my staff complete autonomy to make decisions where they don't have to say, oh, I got to call Louie. They can make decisions. Like I said, they also have a personal relationship with the artists. And they're out there every day. Rome and Kate has been with Kenny for 25 years. Kenny knows them. First of all, I'm not ready to quit for a long time, okay? Unless y'all know something, y'all read a doctor's report. I'm gonna be around for a bit. But no, we will continue, and I've been building my company. We have an office in Nashville. Helen McCollister, who's president of the Nashville office, superstar. Keena, superstar. Bridget, superstar. Rome, superstar. My son, Louis, superstar. And it just goes on. They're just good at what they do.
You opened the Astrodome. You've been doing this for a while.
Superdome.
Excuse me.
I haven't been around that long.
But you've been doing it for a while.
Yeah.
You've got to be thinking about slowing down at some point. There's got to be an idea of when you might want to retire.
No, there isn't. I'm not going to be traveling 250 days a year like I have been in the previous years. This year, I cut it down to like maybe 90 dates. But my normal year used to be 150 shows a year. And one year, I remember I had Kenny, Ed, and Taylor out at the same time. I was on the road 250 days that year. It about killed me. And that's when I said, I can't do this anymore. And I don't have to be at every show because the show goes on. And it took me a long time to realize that I don't have to be at every show. I'm always a phone call away because my team can make decisions. They don't need me.
Well, it's kind of hard to be at multiple shows when you're doing 2 or 3 stadium shows in different markets at the same time, too.
That is true. The artists believe in my team. My team believes in the artists. It all comes back to that. I have great dreamers on my team also. I'm not the only one that sits around and thinks about things. But also, I talk to Paul T all the time at AG, all the time. Stacy V. Those are my 2 heroes. We bat around ideas all the time. That's it. I just network with people.
So I'm my daughter's second favorite promoter because of your talent roster, which is a little humbling to admit, but this is the first podcast that Reese is going to listen to. So she wanted to know.
I can't curse. Oh, I already did.
What? She lives in my house. The fuck you can't. This summer, Ed Sheeran played 360 in the stadiums, but because of his unique stadium setup, only did 1 market a week. What kind of challenges was that financially to make a tour work with only 1 market a week? Obviously more tickets because he's doing 360, but 1 show a week's got to be expensive with all those people on the road.
It was very expensive. It was a beautiful show. It was challenging.
It's an amazing show.
Because we increased our audience size by close to 40%. Last stadium tour, we were doing between 45 and 50,000 people, and now we're in 85, 95,000 capacity. When he told me he was in and around, I about had a heart attack. Because Ed's just like me, or just like every artist. They don't want to see an empty seat.
Yeah, and he's setting attendance records everywhere he went, though. It's amazing.
No,
it worked.
It worked out. But financially, it wasn't a big money. Ed works a lot, and internationally, he's so much bigger internationally than he is in the U.S. But it's fun. The production was quite expensive. He did do 1 show a week, except for the theater show he did on Friday night.
Which was interesting, right? Because he did a different show in the theater, different merch, different songs, different band setup. So he was really playing for those fans that were coming to both shows.
Well, he released a Subtract album, which is sort of a personal album. And so the whole first hour is the whole Subtract album. And he had his complete band on stage. And then the second hour was his hits or any other songs he wanted to play. So it was really cool when we were playing 2,000-seat venues. And Ed's a doll. He's such a great artist and a great friend and a great human being, He's amazing. And he's got a lot of money, but it's not like he is chasing the money. He's making money, but he's not chasing it.
Possibly the only time you see a stadium show where the guy completely carries an entire stadium show by himself.
He does have a band with him on some songs.
He does, but for the most part of the show.
Yeah.
It's him.
Yeah, it's him. He's amazing. He's a one-of-a-kind artist. I mean, he really is. And that's what I love about the artists I work for. They're all unique in their own way. George Strait's George Strait. Taylor is Taylor. They're all different from each other. Every artist I work for are really good people, great people.
Everybody's been waiting, and I want to get to Taylor Swift. But before we do, since my boss has just walked in the room, I'm going to get me and David Marcus in trouble. Let's do this right. David, can you explain what happened with the Ticketmaster on sale with Taylor Swift? Just for the record, so we get it right, what actually happened, and we'll go from there.
This is not a secret. I mean, I'll tell you the same thing I told the Senate and anybody else.
Just your close friends.
Is Last in here? Oh.
Yes.
There was an attack on the server that supported the passwords for verified pay. So the reason Taylor got bummed up is because we couldn't convert passwords. But the real reason Taylor got bummed up is because she is by far the biggest superstar the planet's ever seen. And from a demand perspective and a broker interest perspective, there was hundreds of millions of dollars to be made. So we were the target of that.
It's a twofold problem. There was an attack on the password, and the demand just was way greater than the supply.
Okay, we put Toronto and Vancouver on sale. They were an afterthought. In Vancouver, doing 3 shows, 150,000 tickets that were going up for sale. We had 2.4 million people registered to buy tickets. 2.4 million people in Vancouver. It's the same thing in Toronto. I'm taking you off the hook a little bit. We wanted to play Toronto. It was only available in the fall. So they called and said, let's add Miami, New Orleans, and Indianapolis. We went up with 3 Miamis, 3 Indianapolises, and 3 New Orleans. Top 10 worst cities in the country to promote shows in. Those are 3 to top hardest. And we blew them all out in a day. Dave, you take it over from here. What I'm saying, the demand was so great. I mean, they had glitches, but we've learned from that. And after, when we put Toronto up, when we put Vancouver up, we spread them out. It worked perfectly.
We got nothing else to say. She's the biggest artist in the world. No one's ever seen anything like it. The first punch we took, we were ready for, and we rebounded. We were successful all over the world. So, you learn as you go.
But it won't happen again because you guys learned from it and you fixed it.
Wait.
Amen.
Why did you put all the shows up on one date?
Well, that's not true, Bob. I mean, most people do that. And we shouldn't have. We should have staggered it. And we learned from that. And that's what we start doing. But when we put this tour together, we knew it was big. And I knew Taylor was bigger than she's ever been. But I had no idea that it was this big. But everybody does it. Beyonce changed it. I think after Taylor fiasco, she did delays. But most people do a national on sale.
The simplest question in the world, when you saw the demand was that big, why didn't you just add more dates?
We did. We kept on adding more dates. Instead of 1, we went to 3. Instead of 3 Los Angeleses, we did 6. Instead of 3 Torontos, we're doing 6.
Is there something bigger than stadiums in the future? I mean, what do you build from there to meet the demand?
We're going to drain the Pacific Ocean. I don't know, man. I don't know. Taylor's going to do a residency in every stadium market in the world because it's so funny. And I've been saying this since I've known her. And every time she thinks she's like tapping out, I said, Taylor, you are not even close to where you're going. And I honestly believe that right now, that she still has a long way to go.
We're going to open up to the room for questions. Bob, I'll let you finish yours.
Was the goal of putting them all on, one of the motivations of putting them all on sale to generate excitement, to sell tickets? And how much was Taylor's motivation to create a number, an hysteria that had never previously existed?
It was never her intention. It's always her dream to do this. I mean, I've known her since she just turned 17, and she always had those dreams of being who she is today. But we didn't set out by saying, oh, we're going to show the world that, we got the biggest bat. I miscalculated how big it was. Simple as that. Management miscalculated. We all did. We had no idea that it was, we thought we were a double in every market. That's what we thought. It was ridiculous. I mean, we did get an indication on the signups for pre-sales. We should have called an audible, but we didn't. I'm taking just as much blame as anybody. We've learned our lesson. I'll never do that again. But once again, it's always the artist's call. They make the last call. But I will always recommend never to do it again like that. System can't handle it. It's just like someone trying to go into a car in the subway. It holds 50 people and 1,000 people want to get in that car. It just doesn't work. And that's what happened with Taylor. The demand was ridiculous. In the history of the music business, including the Beatles, nothing like this has happened. Taylor, it's a cultural change. It's amazing what she's accomplished. I mean, just amazing. I'm so proud of her, both as an artist and as a human being, because she's the same person she was when I met her when she was 17, but a lot richer.
It's an interesting thing when she's dating someone, and it's more exciting to the commentary team at the football game that she's in the stadium than what's going on in the field. It's really been a game changer for the NFL on those games rating-wise. It's incredible to see what she can bring to anything she decides to put her hat to.
I hope she runs for president.
Right. So anybody have any questions? We got time for just a couple.
Okay, so Ed Sheeran. The Vegas has to get rescheduled. That's so fine. And then he ends up at Yamava Casino in San Bernardino, 2,000-seat club. I kind of know the answer to the question, but explain how that happens.
A lot of zeros.
He
had to take one for the team, his team, That helped pay for a lot of production costs. It was off the radar, off the charts, and, they paid him a shitload of money.
Thank you. Andy Bernstein, the Executive Director of Headcount. You mentioned we hope Taylor runs for president. I wanted to ask you, a lot of tours now have charity villages at them and have voter registration. And that hasn't really happened in country. And hasn't yet happened in with some of the artists that you work with. Is that something that might happen in the future that you'd evolve toward, or is it kind of a choice not to have that?
Kenny has had voter registration, and we have done charitable events with Strait, with Chesney. Most artists, don't make a big deal out of it. But with Chesney, the last time we did do voter registration, and I'm hoping this time we do it because this is going to be an important year.
You mentioned earlier, when 3 shows were happening one night, 3 stadium shows. How do you decide what's important to cover, and how do you make your artists feel like they're your favorite or that no one is left behind? You mentioned the teams, and that's a huge part of it, I'm sure. But how do you make sure everyone feels special?
Well, I have 3 buses, and so I park a bus at each venue, and everyone always goes around. My team always go around. Louie's looking for you. Louie's looking for you. So they don't know I'm not there.
He wants to know if that's real.
No.
I believe the word might be private jet. Steven's going to have the last question. Psyko Steve.
I thought about that, by the way, though.
So not a question about Taylor, and going back a step, you talked about leaving Clear Channel, which obviously became Live Nation and is a very different company now than it was when it was Clear Channel in management. If you sort of knew where Live Nation would be and the management team that is there now, or had some sort of foresight that that's where it was going to go, do you think you would have stayed there longer or stuck with that, or you obviously didn't see that direction?
No, until Michael took over, the company sucked. The people sucked. All the management sucked. And it took Michael a few years to really kind of make it into kind of a people business again. I mean, he's built an empire, of course. That stock at one point was down to $2. What he's done has been remarkable. I have no regrets of anything I've done. I'm happy where I'm at. Would I like to do more business with, no, I will do. I do more business with Live Nation. I mean, AEG owns Access Ticketing. I support them as much as I can. But when he calls me up and say, hey, we're up against SeatGeek or somebody, I'm happy to pick up the call, pick up the phone and say, this is who I think you should go with. So I don't know. I'm really happy with my world. Louie World is pretty good.
Not a bad place to stop. I want to thank you so much for coming and joining us. It was a pleasure having you, Louie.
Thanks for having me. I really enjoyed this.
That was amazing. If you want more, please visit Louie Messina's first Promoter 101 interview. That's episode number 60 on promoter101.com or wherever you get your podcasts.
My name is Ryan Steinberg, and you can watch my daddy on Promoter 101.
Up next on episode 229 of Promoter 101, we're joined by our good friend Steve Chilton from Psyko Steve Presents in the Rebel Lounge in Phoenix, Arizona. Steve sat down with Dan also at this year's Aspen Live to talk about the pitfalls of festival promoting.
A friend of the podcast for years, Steven Chilton, Psyko Steve, and we're going to do the first war story in well over 18 months on Promoter 101, and couldn't think of a better person to do it. And before you tell your story, can you tell us where the moniker Psyko Steve came from? Because you're a very mild guy in actuality.
I like to think it's ironic. Other people might disagree on that, but don't name your company in high school. It's just a joke some friends had started calling me and became like my screen name on a lot of things. And I was promoting shows and was handing out flyers at school one day, and one of my friends who was part of the crew that gave me that moniker was like, haha, you should put Psyko Steve Presents on the flyer. And then so the next show I put Psyko Steve Presents on the top of the flyer and handed him one, and he just like looked down and he's like, just sort of nodded. It was like, okay, well played,
And you were how old when you were doing shows in high school?
I started doing stuff when I was like 17, like senior year. And
was it like local bands?
Just all local bands. All my friends were in bands in high school, but I went to a lot more shows and knew people at venues and knew like Will Anderson. And,
when he was at like Lucky Man at the time?
Or before he was at Lucky Man.
Oh, when he was working for Corey?
Yeah, when he was working for Corey. And, I knew people at venues and other bands because I went to a lot of like small shows, and my friends were like, can you help us get a show? Can you help us get a show? And first show I was involved in, I booked, because I was like trying to get my friends on shows, and kind of snowballed to here.
Tell us the story of Zona. There's lots of festivals, and it seems when you see Coachella and Lollapalooza and Ballarock and Bonnaroo, and I can go on for days naming festivals, that it's so easy to build a mega festival. But they all start in the roots, and if you know the history of a lot of these festivals, a lot of these guys, C3, Golden Voice, put themselves in financial jeopardy building their festival brands, and even put Golden Voice out of business to the point where AEG stepped in to bail them out. And that's how Golden Voice got involved, in a nutshell, basically, with AEG. And then, of course, C3's long history of building festivals and brands had some serious ups and downs, as we've heard from the Charlies over the years. So I'm now, looking back, it's like, what a great investment. But these guys had balls of steel. So if you're going to start a festival and build a brand, it really takes some serious ganas. And you have stepped into that ring.
Yeah, and I can appreciate that on a whole nother level now. Just coming out of COVID, was thinking, what's the next thing? What's the next growth of the company? And been doing a lot of shows. I'd always kind of wanted to do a real festival and done some smaller festivals. I work with the band The Main on their boutique festival.
They're a big hometown band in Arizona.
They're from Phoenix, and we do their festival every couple of years. They do it sporadically. We've done 3 now, called 8123 Fest. So we had kind of done that. We actually, the third one went on sale January right before COVID for a year out, and then that got moved. And so we did that January 22, trying to, all the ups and downs of COVID of, are we doing a festival? Are we not? For months of it pushed back multiple times, and trying to do that peak of, I forget whichever variant. So, and then after 8123 Fest, it was like, okay, we just did this. It was the biggest one we had done, the biggest production. And it was like, okay, I want to do this kind of again, only do it my festival. 8123, that's their vision. I just helped produce. And then right after 8123, it was like, okay, we kind of have the model. We knew the site a little bit. Let's start working on, on what became Zona. And we just started working on it. And I knew it was going to be a big commitment and a big risk. And one of the ones is that lineup ended up being very personal to me. Almost all the bands on the festival we'd worked with, some of which for years. So we had the Front Bottoms. First show I did with them, we probably had 30 people at it. We had TV Girl. I've been booking them since they were in 100 Caps. And we're very diligent on the lineup. We didn't ever go out and ask for submissions. We just started sending out offers for who I wanted. I think out of the first 10 offers we sent, we confirmed 8 of them.
So you were curating. You weren't
very heavily.
You were going wide with it. This was what you wanted. This was your event.
Yeah, it was very much
personal to you. So essentially, if a band wasn't invited to play, they're not one of your favorites.
I mean, I have favorite bands that I knew wouldn't be on it, but ones we had worked with was a big part. But out of the 3 main stages, there was only one band I had never seen before, and that was Bartreat Strange. because I discovered him sort of during COVID, so he hadn't been back. Coming out of COVID, it was very great because we were able to do a lot of artists hadn't been to Phoenix yet. So we were trying to think like who hasn't, some of the bands hadn't been in the market for 3 years. And then another one we did on it that we didn't advertise, we had complete gender parity on the lineup. So we had more acts were female fronted than were male fronted. And we never really broadcast that. It was just something from the very beginning. We were be very conscious of that, but I didn't want to ever go out and say it. We never said this is what we're doing. We just put out a lineup that
rock festivals tend to be pretty sausage heavy.
Yeah, they generally do. But I also didn't want to make that like the theme. Like it's just a rock concert. It's an indie rock show. There's cool bands. And if you didn't notice it, you probably never noticed how diverse it was. And when we were going after a lot of the female acts, particularly, and telling them we're committed to making sure we have this equity, but we don't want to make that part of the branding. We're not advertising, hey, look at this bill because of that. And a lot of the female acts really reacted to that because they don't want to feel like it's a token thing. It's like, oh, you're committed to this, but we're not making it a big deal. We're just doing a great show. I thought that turned out really well. We had a lot of local artists, but a lot of the local artists we work with that tour a lot and the real ones. So it's like very important to me that we had Arizona represented up and down the lineup. It wasn't like, oh, here's the local stage over here. Oh, here's an opener on the first stage. It was kind of weird when we were doing the set times with bands because have agents come back and be like, we can't be under them. We need to be above so-and-so. And be like, yeah, any other market in the world, that's true. But in Phoenix,
They're
it's
fighting
not.
to be lower on the bill? You don't
No,
hear
no,
that very
the
often.
headliner. No, like someone's fighting like our band can't be below this local band.
Okay, so that's right. Agent,
yeah.
That's a normal agent thing. They want the act above. Yeah, okay,
yeah, and
got
it's
it.
like, yes, I get that any other market in the world, your band would be above this band, but not in Phoenix, Arizona. And like most people who's kind of got it once it's like, oh, that band did 1,000 tickets last play on the market, but they probably do 300 everywhere else. It's like, oh, okay.
So let's jump ahead a little bit, right? So you're doing this festival, and one of my favorite things ever is when it snows in LA, it freaks the world out because it happens once every 10 or 15 years, but they're not prepared to handle it. Just like New Orleans, it closes the city if it snows. So it never rains in Arizona.
And it rained all day on our first day and most of the day on our second day.
I mean, it really, you guys can go ages without a real, I mean, drizzles,
You
but
go
like
100.
a real rainstorm just doesn't happen.
Yeah, so we did our festival in December. Being in Phoenix, that's when the weather is actually best. And
Which sounds weird to begin with, right? A December festival, but like in summer, for those of you that don't know, you can't really do a show in July or August because it's so frigging hot in Arizona and some parts of Texas that the amphitheater shows happen in the spring and fall where it's already peaked in heat for the outdoor shows.
honestly, part of when we started doing the festival, first weekend of December was kind of when I could get the date at the park because there's other events in there and don't want to kind of do a first year festival in the middle of October when everything's crazy.
Crazy with traffic, right? Competition.
Yeah,
'cause everybody's trying to
competition.
play the
Everyone's
market.
doing stuff. And for a first year festival, and we kind of coming in at the start of the year was a little late to start for that time. So December looked really good and ended up not thinking about it because I just did it on what date made sense for me. And it was the artist teams loved it because it was like there was nothing else around it. It's before the holiday shows. It's kind of after Thanksgiving. So the timing on artists ended up working out really, really well. But we were doing it and it really looked into like what's the weather, like taking a giant risk, want to be really good. It hadn't rained on that weekend in over 30 years. It's only rained on that weekend 3 times in the last century. And agents were like, I don't know, we can't do a festival in December. And I was kind of looking up other festivals and got the data. And I was like, the average temperature for my weekend is 3 degrees higher than the average temperature at Lolla and the average temperature at Outside Lands. And so it's like, it's going to be warmer at our festival than these like summer festivals because we're Phoenix. And then like a week out from the festival, rain just hit all the, the forecasts and just went, fuck. We sold more tickets 3 weeks out than we did week of because the second rain hit, we just dried to a halt and the momentum felt like it was 2 weeks out. It felt like the momentum was there and it just week before just died and everyone's like, is it still happening? And it's just all the conversations turned into rain. And
It's amazing when you have the trajectory on the show where you see the raps getting better as you're getting closer and it's happening. Every once in a while, you'll have a show on sale against a sports team getting deeper into the playoffs and it going well in that city. And you see the trajectory of your ticket sales stop as the excitement for the hometown team
takes over in the success of the chase for the World Series or the Stanley Cup or the Super Bowl. And it's just like one of those things, you can't predict it.
Exactly. And it was also one where like a month out, I knew we weren't going to get out of it. I knew it was going to lose some money. I wasn't delusional. I've heard all the stories like you were talking about, festivals that lost. Knew it was a big risk, knew we might not, was not in any delusion that it would be immediately profitable. And we were kind of on pace to end kind of where I was hoping to get. And we made a lot of decisions like a month out to not cut corners, to not, it wasn't like, we're going to be a little short. Where can we save? It was like, I want to do this right. And what I kept saying is, I don't care whether it makes money. I care that everyone leaves happy. The artist teams, the fans.
You're building a brand.
Building a brand and also building a proof that we can do this, proof of concept. And made quite a few decisions that month out that maybe in retrospect, knowing how much rate it was going to have and know how far we would end up in the hole. Maybe there's a few places we could have.
You were okay to make an investment.
And we certainly did. And it was sort of a weird one in that, like you said, that first Coachella, P&L ended up as brutal as a first year kind of can. Everything else was awesome. Like the feedback from the artists was awesome. The vibe backstage, again, most of the lineup we've worked with for years, and so it's like when Front Bottom showed up, they were so excited because it's sort of like we've both got here together, and TV Girl and The Garden and Upsall and all these artists. One of our headliners was Bleachers. I did a number of Steel Train shows early on with Jack, so I've known him for 20 years. And one that was great, one of our other headliners, we had Portugal the Man. I've never booked them before. It's the first time I've worked with them as the promoter. But I used to, when I worked for Will forever ago at Lucky Man, I used to run their shows. I was always the promoter rep when they were in a van and doing 200 tickets. So I've known those guys forever. So it was like the whole backstage had this great vibe. Like, actually, when we came out with the lineup and it first announced, I got a call from an agent that I do a lot of business with who was like furious I hadn't asked him or let him submit. And I was like, I didn't ask anybody to submit. I never sent out, I would say, hey, if you've got other ideas when I was asking about an artist, but I never did. And it was like, this agent, I was like, you don't represent any artists that would make sense on this bill. You represent great artists, but they don't fit what we were doing. So why are you mad that you didn't get to submit? Who do you even have on your roster that would have made sense in this lineup? And it was this sort of but we should have got to submit. And it was like, it was so that like curated. I didn't, we did take a number of bands that were pitched to us, but it was all sort of in those conversations and
organic.
Yeah, organic. And
so I'm not going to ask you how much you lost, but it by far your biggest loss on any event ever, right? By far.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
by multiples, right? Like,
I mean, but it was categorically a bigger thing than I've ever done. I've never done something at that scale. So,
right. So you stepped up, you took a shot. Well, the success of the vibe of the event completely worked, and there's clearly you found a path, and you saw the trajectory of the ticket sales were there. Had it not been this random fluke rainstorm, there's something there.
Yeah, and one of the weird ones is I don't think anyone that was there thinks it lost. If you were there, you thought it was a success. I mean, it was enough people.
But you're positive it lost money.
Oh, yeah, but if you're a fan or don't know, I can't run into one of my city councilwoman. Every time I run into her, it's like, when are we doing zone again? When are we doing? She was there, and like the feedback has just been insanely positive. So
now, are you going to do it again at some point?
I would love to. We didn't do it this year. Coming out of it, a lot to resolve, and I'd love to do it again. I just don't know. It's not something we're sending out offers for today, but would love to figure out how to do it again or reimagine it.
Okay, so what are the lessons that you took away from your first big scale shot at doing a festival?
Getting the team on board way faster than I did. For the very sort of first part, it was just me and Jeff, one of my talent buyers, kind of working on the lineup, and we kind of had a all right version of the budget. Obviously, ended up very different than what we had started on, but a pretty decent draft.
What's an ideal budget for an event that scale? Ballpark.
Our budget ended up being, just under $4 million. So total.
And what did you originally think it was going to be, your budget?
Something like 2.5 or 3. Some of that was intentional of us adding things that weren't originally in it. And some of it was things just costing more than it did. But your takeaway.
And if you were to do it again, is that the right budget, $4 million?
Yeah, I think it needs some massage. There's definitely, can't say it was perfect, but there's, for that scale event.
But in the ballpark of 4 to 5-ish?
Yeah, something. I mean, to step it up to get there. No, but your takeaway, like bringing more of the team on earlier, different pieces need to be moving in parallel, not after each other. So like, we hired a bunch of great people. My friend Tanner, who tour manages the Sad Summer Festival tour, who's helped on my all the 8123 festivals. Brought in my friend Jasper, who's worked festivals forever on the artist side. So she's worked at Coachella and Bonnaroo, but she kind of came in the middle of the process. So like the biggest one would be get more of the team working from day one on it, sort of things didn't need to wait, Sponsorship is one where it was the first year and that's something I've never been good at. We had Roland Speets was helping me a little on that. And that's something we definitely missed the mark on.
Yeah. I've never been great at sponsorship either.
Yeah. It's like, that's a piece I'm not like,
it always
that's
seems to me
one.
it costs almost as much to chase sponsorship as you bring in, and it kind of washes itself out almost.
Yeah, and a couple of good sponsors.
When you get to the bigger level, obviously, that's not the case. But.
Yeah, but for a first-year thing, and some of the sponsors, it cost almost as much to deliver as you're getting. So you think, oh, we got this $50,000 check, and you're like, yeah, but we spent $42,000 fulfilling our obligations.
Right, and some of the stuff we did pissed off some of our headliners.
Yeah, we like we were good on that.
But you got to be careful. Like a sponsorship name can definitely cause the vibe to change, and you got to take that.
Yeah, and we did a lot of cool local sponsors, or some even in kind. Like we named all the bars after cool local downtown Phoenix bars, and got them in. And it wasn't. I went to sort of and it was all bar owners I know and friends, and said, if you could come do the decor, kind of help with some of the staffing. It was kind of an in trade thing, like help us market it. And so it had a really cool organic local feel. Yeah, but getting everybody on board would be like one of the biggest lessons. Being tighter on the budgets, there were lots of things that we should have got better quotes on earlier on. We weren't totally off, but could have been tighter on some things.
No, I don't want to get too deep into it, but you guys had some serious production issues because of the rain, like getting the production out of the site took a lot longer than you guys anticipated.
Yeah, that was a big one because it was so much, the first day rained all day. It was actually the longest prolonged rain in Phoenix in 114 years.
So the odds of that happening are like the odds of you getting to date Christy Charlton. It just wasn't in the books.
Yeah. And then even when it first started looking like rain, we were like, oh, it's going to rain a little bit. It'll kind of dampen the vibe, but whatever. And then like day of, it was just nonstop. Even the day before, it didn't say it was going to rain that much. And so like the field was just absolute mud. We got one of our headliner semis got stuck in the mud. So all day Saturday, we had a tow truck out trying to get their semi out of the mud. Luckily, it was the last day of tour, so it didn't really matter that the semi was stuck in the mud. It wasn't
the worst day it could be.
It wasn't like, oh, this semi needs to be in LA tomorrow. But so the park, the city, we were in a city park, wouldn't let us load out until it started drying. And then, so our loadout, instead of being 2 days, took a week. And then we kind of messed up on a bunch of the order of operations on that. Like we just never forgot. Just, one of the little tiny things. The company that came to pick up all the trash, supposed to come on Tuesday. They came on Tuesday, picked up all the trash. Well, we hadn't loaded anything out yet. So then 5 days later, everyone, all the equipment, everything's loaded out and there's still trash everywhere. And I was like, oh shit, we got to call the trash company back because we, that whole order got messed up on what could and couldn't load.
But it's festival college, right? You learn how to do a festival by doing it until shit goes wrong. You just don't know.
And a lot of what we didn't know, like I kind of had we had done other festivals with 8123, although that was categorically a smaller boutique than what Zona was.
Okay,
but the pieces we knew.
You said that, so let's clarify. How many people was 8125 set up to do?
8123, we do like 5,000, and that's huge success, and everyone's happy.
Okay,
and that's
so 5,000 camp, and it's a single day, right?
Yeah, and single day. Or the festival itself is a single day. There's some side stuff, but the festival is a single day. This was 2 days. We're aiming for 10 to 12,000. Didn't get there, but got close.
But you're built out to do 10 to 12,000 versus you built out to do 5,000. So it's at least 2.5x scale all the way through, right?
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Your budgets are exponentially bigger. Your staff is exponentially bigger. Your needs and the timing and all the extra things that you need to implement are exponentially bigger.
Yeah, and a lot of the things, we kind of knew what the line item was. We were just a little bit off on the scale. Like I knew we needed a bunch of runners, and the like scale of bringing in that many artists and airport runs was just a little bit more than I thought. And I knew that was going to be a big thing, but it was bigger than it was. And which anyone doing festivals would be like, yeah, no shit. It's like one artist is like 19 airport trips, because they're all coming from different places. But, like things like that, where it was like, we kind of knew. So it wasn't anything we were totally blindsided by, but there was a little bit where it was like, oh, there's way more discussion in this than, planning a lot of that out.
Okay. And I think if you were to talk, and I'm not sure if you have or not, but if you were to talk to the 10 Heinigs and the Charlie Walkers of the world that do these festivals, they would tell you that their early days missteps taught them how to do their bigger festivals and develop into those things. And I'm guessing these lessons that you're learning and probably overthinking for the last year is how you're going to get it right next time. Even though you can't control the weather, you can move your date.
Well, I mean, it's only rained now once in 30 years on that date. I mean, I don't know if that's what needs to change or not. I mean, climate change is going to affect fucking all of us. And so what was a safe date for the last 10 years may not be a safe date in future. So some of the things you can't do around.
But at the end of the day, you're still Psycho Steve Presents, still Revel Lounge, and doing how many shows a year?
We did about 700 shows this year, so.
But you're very much in business. It didn't knock you out.
It might have been a little worse. It might have, but it didn't, but it, and that was the one. We took care of every single artist. I think a lot of agents knew that it wasn't going to be profitable, but we took care of everyone. We fulfilled every commitment, every artist. The feedback from artists and agent teams was amazing. We had like a dozen agents come out and a whole bunch of managers. Like the industry, really came out to support. I think a lot of that very much personal of, everything I did during all the Save Our Stages and everything did during COVID. And, again, it was a lot of artist teams. That was one that ended up being a little easier because the conversations were all really easily. Like there's very few people were not trusting. Everyone was like, oh, you're doing this? Awesome. We want to be part. Some of them, the negotiations and money or, some of the details were a little bit, but the immediate support and reaction, I think we only sent out like 9 offers that didn't confirm, and all those were about dates or timing or something.
And how many bands did you have?
Right around 50.
That's a lot. Were like 2 stages going simultaneously?
Yeah, we had 4 stages, 2 would be going at any time.
So it's like very much like a Warped Tour setup.
Yeah, so we had 4 stages and, A and C and B and D, A and C, B and D all day. Something like 25, 26 bands each day. And it just had such a fun family. A lot of artists we've worked with, a lot of artists my team knows. So all the artists came in super. There's one where when it was like first raining in the morning and everyone's kind of miserable trying to get doors open and we're trying to get tarps and send people to Home Depot and really scrambling. And it's just like, fuck this. We're spending all this money, spend all this a year working on this. It's going to suck. And then I was so surprised how well everyone embraced it. Like everyone in Phoenix, it's like, okay, let's make the most of it. And it was like people playing in mud. You see it Woodstock. Like everyone had a great time, and the artists had a great time. And I was just sort of kind of a little in my head early in the morning, and everyone's like, "This is amazing!" And I'm like, "I'm glad everyone thinks it is."
It's interesting. I mean, we were talking about this as a war story, and I think it's more than that, and it's developed into more than that. But at the end of the day, and we never really mentioned that you during COVID were a big part of founding NEVA and were a board member, and that was a big thing. I was curious, when you're talking to all of those politicians, do you introduce yourself as Psycho Steve?
Well, in Phoenix, most of them have known me before that, So like Greg Stanton, our congressman, I was able to get on the phone with him immediately. He used to be the mayor of Phoenix. He knew the events I did. He knew I met him when I worked for Charlie at Crescent, and we opened that. And so a lot of the politicians in Phoenix already know me as that. So I don't need to say that.
That's awesome. I can't thank you enough for talking about one of your biggest events and one of your biggest missteps as far as like financially having to overcome. But the fact that you've learned from it, overcome, and continued to build off of that seems like you're only a stronger promoter for it.
Definitely learned a lot. There was a lot of fun, a lot of headache. And yeah, I think it stepped up and did something very much bigger. And I think all the important ways that matter, we nailed it.
Well, I can't thank you enough for taking time talking to us on Festival Promoter 101.
Thanks for having me.
From C3 to Golden Voice, they make it look so easy to do those monster festivals. It's nice that Psycho Steve was here to speak the truth about what it takes to build those brands right here on Promoter 101.
Hi, my name is Toby Leighton Pope. I work for AG Presents in the UK, and I'm on Promoter 101.
Tweets of the week.
It wouldn't be Promoter 101 without, is it Tweets of the Week or is it Tweets of the Year now, Dan? Whatever it is, let's figure out what's going on in the mind of Steiny. I'm going to read off some tweets here, Dan. I want to hear what you were thinking. First up, quote, second show added by overwhelming demand used to mean more than we always have planned on rolling 2 shows.
Yeah, it used to be a thing. People used to get excited when, like, overwhelming demand. We're rolling another show. You used to actually think they weren't planning it. Now the fans know. They've caught on to us.
Good way to mitigate some risk. How about this one, Dan? This is a very simple business. You book the show, you market the show, you sell the show. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, sometimes it rains.
I might have been watching Bull Durham before I posted that one, Luke.
This one I feel like is a little close to home. I love the, quote, urgent requests that always demand something that's already been provided in the same email chain.
I'm not sure if this was you or not, but it might have been you.
I think it happens to us all. Some non-music content here, Dan. Never trust a foodie that doesn't eat Pop-Tarts.
I mean, right?
I mean, big frosted strawberry Pop-Tart guy myself here.
That feels right. You've got the pants for it.
That was a softball. How about this one? Nothing ever good comes from an early morning call.
Oh, truth.
I'll remember that the next time you call me at 6:30 in the morning your time, Dan. One more here, Dan. You never see a press release that reads, canceled due to underwhelming demand.
I like that one.
There's no question. That's what a lot of things cancel for. So, no, I don't think we're issuing a release on that one.
It would be great to see just once, though.
Yeah, just one time. My fans
canceled by underwhelming demand. Nobody was bringing the money and we weren't writing the check.
That does it for Tweets of the Week / Tweets of 2023. Make sure you follow Dan on X. He is at the Jew.
I'm Harvey Cohen with Live Nation Canada, and I'm here on Promoter 101.
The quote of the week. We will open the book. Its pages are blank. We are going to put words on them ourselves. The book is called Opportunity, and its first chapter is New Year's Day. Edith Lovejoy Pierce. Any relation, Luke?
No, I'm not sure that I have any 20th century, early 1900 poets in my family. I know that she's got a couple books that she's published back in the day, but picked a great one. An opportune time to talk about the future, Dan, and the excitement that lays before us in 2024. It's been a great 2023, but I'm always excited about the future. Well summed up in this year's quote of the week.
Tim Sweetwood, C3 presents Promoter 101.
And just like that, it's time for us to go back into hiding. But we might pop up again sometime. You just never know when.
Well, I guess that all's left to do is to wish you all a happy holiday and a wonderful new year. We loved getting back together and doing this. We're glad to be dropping another Promoter 101 this holiday season. If you liked it or you hated it, you can write us at steiny@promoter101.net. Or if you just miss us and you want to catch up, we'd love to hear from you, and we can't thank you enough for listening.
Well, happy holidays to all our Promoter 101 family, and thank you for listening. It was nice that we got to pop back up after, I believe, 18 months off. I don't know. This was so much fun. Maybe we'll do it again sometime. I don't know, Luke. What do you think?
I like keeping the door open for these things, Dan. This podcast has brought an incredible amount of joy to me, to Dan, to Connor, to all of our listeners. We really appreciate you. Hopefully, in 2024, maybe we drop a few more of these. We are wishing you all sold-out shows for the year to come.
Cheers.
Call your mother.